birthday, kids. What time is it?
So 2 more weeks,
Ho, ho, ho.
and the
Yeah.
regular season is over.
This is our
It's actually
last show of
first time.
2021.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. And this is like the first season where you have a regular season in the new year too.
That's right. I
The
know.
longest.
I mean, usually you have like a game or two that might spill into the first weekend in January,
Right.
like which we
This is
have,
like
but
yep, which we do have, but
there's
we have
another
a full.
full week. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. When you said that, I didn't even realize. Like, wow, it is the last one of this year. Holy cow! Just hasn't hit me that it's going to be a new year soon.
How did that happen so fast? And you know, it's strange because it feels long, but at the same time, it feels like it was a blur. Does
Yep.
that make any
Yep.
sense?
Yes, it does. It actually does. I remember. I remember when it was feeling like, oh my gosh, this is like so. But now it's here. It's like, what happened?
I know, and I'm looking at our records. Well, first I'll put it up. I went 12-4. You went 13-3. We flipped our last week records. We
Which
traded
is like 2 straight weeks we've done really well.
really well. We look like geniuses now.
I know. It's like really.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that puts the overalls. I don't think I'm going to catch you, man. You're at
Well, we still have the
148 and
playoffs
92. I'm at 143 and 97. I'm 5 behind with 2 weeks to go. I mean, I'm not going to rule it out. But I don't know.
Well,
We don't know what we're going to pick this week.
yeah.
What if we do one of those weeks where only one game is different? That puts all the pressure on week 18.
On the one.
On week 18, I don't
Then you
know.
gotta do something like weird. It's like, no, just go.
But I am not going to. I'm not going to seed yet. I'm not going to.
Right.
So I'm
Well, you
going to
should.
hang in there to the last minute. Foolishly.
I mean, there's still playoffs too. So
Well, yes, to the Great Reset. It's all started 0-0 again. So how are your holidays?
I thought last year we just continued like from the. I thought we carried them over into the playoffs.
Did we?
For some reason?
That's a dumb
I
plan.
thought we did. Huh?
Oh, you just want to do that so you can keep your big lead.
No. Oh no, we could reset. Oh no, we could reset. That's fine. No. I was actually thinking because it gave you more of a chance. But you're right. Then if I'm way too far ahead, we should reset it to.
It only makes
Playoffs.
sense to have two,
Yeah.
the regular season and the playoffs.
I think the only reason we did it last year is because we had started like halfway through the season around, so we figured
Yeah.
we continue straight through. That's why. Yep.
And we missed a week or two toward the end too. So
Oh yeah,
we didn't do.
I was just thinking about that today. Wow, we didn't actually miss any weeks yet. Oh, I probably shouldn't say anything. Now next week's gonna screw that up.
I know. No, I think these last 2 weeks were the toughest, or with the holidays and everything.
Yeah.
I think after this, it'll be easier. We'll get back on our regular schedule-ish sort of thing.
Yep.
But we do. This is a weird week this week where we're kind of back to old school football. It's only Sunday and Monday.
Yeah, I hadn't even realized that until you brought it up. Yep,
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday, and it's the last Monday night, which is always usually like the week that like kind of hits me a little hard. That it's like, wow, I can't even tune in on Monday nights anymore for football
I
after
know.
this week.
I know. There's something.
That's it.
You're right. It has a weird finality to it.
Yeah, because I always have it in the back of my mind after the Sunday night games. It's like, well, there's one more game tomorrow, so I'll look forward to that. Not anymore.
Yeah, it's I have the same kind of it's like a sadness. And like
Yeah.
the Monday Night Football crew, like when the game's winding down, there'll be 3-4 minutes left, and they'll start thanking everybody because it's the last one, and that kind of makes me
That's
sad.
right.
It
does.
On the upside, I don't have to make as many graphics when the playoffs start.
That's true. That's true for sure. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, there's less teams. So moving along, last week we covered the nominees for the AFC Walter Payton Man of the Year. This week
Yep.
we can quickly go through the NFC. You want to take the East?
Yep. So Dallas Cowboys. Well, we have probably their most well-known player at this point, Dak Prescott, and we both always said what a great guy he is. So
Yeah.
that this was no shock that he. I didn't even realize this is his 6th year. Wow.
Gosh, time flies, doesn't it? Some of these guys.
Jeez. I still
We said that
remember when
last
he
week
was
about
like,
Derrick Henry. We said the same
yeah,
thing. It was like,
that's
wow,
true.
6 years already? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm still remembering Dak Prescott from like, I thought he just broke into the league. Nope, 6th year, 6th
6
year
years.
already.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the Washington football team, Jonathan Allen, defensive tackle. That's his 5th year. Still pretty young guy still as well. Continuing with our theme of young guys.
Yeah, right.
The Eagles, it's an offensive tackle. The center, Jason Kelsey, not the other Kelsey that is more well known.
Travis Kelce.
Travis. Are they brothers? I don't even
I
know.
don't think so.
if
The
they're
names
like
are spelled
kinda
differently,
related.
right?
Okay. Oh yeah, it's spelled
No,
differently.
they are
Yeah,
spelled the same. They are spelled the same. Maybe they are.
I don't remember if they're.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's been in their kind of like trademark set for 11th year now. Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty good. Finally the Giants, Logan Ryan, he's their safety. That's a back to a defensive guy, safety. He's been out. That's his 9th year now.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
all good guys.
NFC North. We'll start with Detroit. Since they've taken it
Yeah.
on the chin all year, we'll give them the first one here. Jason Cabina, fullback. I mean,
Oh, a fullback, really?
yeah,
That's cool.
They still have a couple of those around.
You
the
don't
league,
really hear that much,
right? 4th year out of Penn State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, New Jersey kid. So good for him. Next up, Green Bay. Aaron Jones. We know who he is, running back.
Yep.
Probably one of the elite in the league. Although I got to say that guy Dobbins is starting to push him a little bit, don't you think?
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
Yeah. So Aaron Jones had that thing this year where his dad passed away, and he had the little urn with his ashes in it. And that was a really great story. And then he like lost it on the field, and the grounds crew.
Oh, he did. I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear this? Oh, the grounds crew spent a couple days and they found it.
Not about the him losing it. No,
He lost it because he was wearing it on a chain and it came off.
Yep.
And they ended up finding it for him, and then they sewed like a pocket now. He has a pocket in his jersey, and he keeps it inside there. So he carries his dad with him for every game. So Minnesota, Anthony Barr, outside linebacker, 8th year pro. And Barr, he had 2 interceptions. Was it the week before last?
I think so.
Who the heck did they play? That game was Minnesota.
That wasn't Detroit. Chicago. Was that Chicago?
Yes, it was.
That
Yes,
Chicago
it was.
game, yeah.
Yes,
Very
it was.
defensive game, yeah.
Just made a couple of incredible interceptions there. Those were really good. And last but not least, where am I here? Who did I do? I did Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay.
Chicago. Yeah.
Chicago, and talk about veterans. He's still there. He's still alive. Jimmy Graham, tight end.
Wow,
12
Jimmy
years
Graham.
in the league. Jimmy Graham, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when he was with the Saints hooking up with.
God, remember when he was there with Drew Brees? That was incredible.
Drew Brees, yeah, that was incredible. Yep.
And he never quite, when he went to Seattle, and then he's hopped around a little bit. He's never quite recaptured what he had when he was in New Orleans. That first 4 or 5 years, he was great.
Yeah.
All right, NFC South.
So we go to the South. So Tampa Bay, Mike Evans, wide receiver, 8th year in the league now. He's not the. He's not. He's still on the field, right? He's not the receiver they lost, right?
He is out. He has a hamstring problem.
Right, but he's kind of like a week-to-week type thing.
Week-to-week, yeah. Godwin's the one that's gone.
Oh, right, Godwin, yeah. Yeah, so Mike Evans. And the Saints, Cameron Jordan, defensive end.
Oh, Cam Jordan.
11th year already in the league. And
he's been up for this award in the past.
Oh, he actually won this award?
That's right,
before?
Yep.
Wow. He's really good.
Yep.
And he came up a lot Monday night when I was watching that game. Man, he tore through that Miami offensive line, had Tua running for his life.
That's why I picked the Saints. I didn't know they weren't going to have a quarterback.
Right, right. Carolina, DJ Moore. He's a pretty young guy,
Yep.
wide receiver. This is only his third year. That's pretty good,
Really?
pretty big impact that he's only been in the league 3 years
See,
and
now
he's
he's a
already.
guy I thought would be in the league 4 or 5 years by now. It just
Yeah,
feels like he's
yeah,
been around a lot longer than that.
I know. Hmm.
Yeah.
It does feel like that. And then the Falcons, Mike Davis, running back. He's been in the league 6 years now. Oh, this was more like remember last
He was with
when we did
Carolina
the AFC,
before.
it was more defensive guys. This week seems to be more offensive
Offensive
guys.
guys.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
pretty
wasn't
good guys
Davis
here.
Davis used to be with the Panthers, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And last but not least, but not, definitely not least, the
No.
West, the home of all the good teams in the league for the most part. Calvin Beachum, former Pittsburgh Steeler with the Arizona
Oh,
Cardinals, offensive lineman, 10 years experience. I like, the Steelers are having so much trouble on their offensive line, and this is a guy they probably should
yeah.
have held on to, especially being a upstanding citizen.
Right.
Another
Good
offensive
leadership.
lineman, yeah, the Rams, Andrew Whitworth, 7th to 16th year in the league, so he's going into his
Wow.
17th
Okay.
year.
Now that's a veteran.
There's
I
some
don't think
longevity.
we've read anyone that's been that in the league that long. Yeah.
No, exactly. San Francisco sends defensive end Eric Armstead, 7-year veteran, and he's well known. I mean, Eric Armstead's
Yep.
one of their better
Yep.
players, and for the Seattle Seahawks, Tyler Lockett, wide receiver.
Oh, Tyler Lockett.
Tyler
Yeah.
Lockett,
That's
yeah.
one of their greats offensively.
Tyler
Yep.
Lockett's got one of those. I'm looking at his photo here, and he's got one of those smiles that like just beams.
And yeah.
He's just got. He looks like
Lights
a
up the
really
room.
good-natured guy, right? Exactly. So, good luck to all of them. They all deserve to win something, but there can only be one Man of the Year.
Yeah. When did they do? Do you remember? I don't know offhand when they do it at the end of like the calendar year, or
I
at the
think
end?
it's around the Super Bowl.
Okay,
I'm
so we'll
pretty
have to keep
sure.
an eye on that. See who wins.
Let me see real quick.
Yeah.
February 10th.
Okay.
So
I'll
it's
try to
the
remember
weekend of the Super Bowl.
So we'll have to talk about the
The
winner.
person who wins,
I
definitely.
mean, they're all winners, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Definitely have to do that. So with that, should we? Whoops. Let's get into our our picks. Yeah. Let's see if I can catch you. Chasing 5. Here we go. Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's there's no more bye week, so your maximum amount of games for next 2 weeks. So
This is true. First up, Sunday, 1:00. The suddenly surging Philadelphia Eagles at 8-7 travel to Washington to take on those fighting football teamers. Did you see the fight on the sidelines they had?
yeah, they're fighting the wrong way,
Yeah,
fighting amongst each other,
each
and that's
other.
not going to get them very far.
So 6-9 Washington, 1:00 on Fox.
I'm just wondering if there's something going on organization-wise that started. They were doing so well a few weeks ago, and they kind of just like
What happened,
turned.
right?
They turned into like what the Carolina Panthers are doing the same type of thing. They're just kind of like just listless and can't get anything go. Offensively, they can't really get anything going, whether they have their starters or not, because Heineke played last week and
Yeah,
they got
he's not
clobbered.
doing well either. What's he
Yeah.
averaging? 150 yards a game in the last 4 games.
All of a sudden something's just like not working there, and I'm wondering if there's something kind of off the field. I don't know. It's not working. And meanwhile, on the other side, like you said, surging Eagles, they've been doing very well, at least offensively. Hurts seems to have caught his like kind of like rhythm. He still makes some bad decisions like any second year guy will, but he's big chunks of the game he's running that offense very, very well. And so I'm going to go with them, the Eagles, in this game.
Philadelphia, I didn't realize this, and I'm just verifying it. 6-2 in their last 8 games, and
Yep.
this was a very quiet 6-2, especially from where I'm sitting, because
I agree.
I thought they were one of these win one lose one, and
Yep.
when they are winning consistently, but it didn't seem like they were winning consistently, as if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, well, they weren't earlier on, but
yeah. But 6-2 in their last 8. That's a trend. That's a
Yep.
it flew under my radar. And I saw what they did last week to the Giants. They just completely dismantled it in the second half. I mean, it was 3-3
Right.
at halftime. Like,
yeah.
what? Then they put their foot on the gas and just tore the Giants apart. I'll save what I was going to say about the Giants for the Giants, but
Yeah.
but in looking at that and realizing that that's a couple in a row. I mean, they beat up Washington the week before. They beat up the Jets the week before that. It's like they're starting to put up some points. They're scoring in the 30s all of a sudden.
Yep.
So is Jalen Hurts getting his footing? Is is the team coming together? So meanwhile, like you said, on the other side, Washington just looks like right when they looked like they hit their stride, the wheels just completely have popped off the wagon.
Yeah, it's inexplicable.
And watching that fist fight between Payne, was it Payne and Allen? Who was it? It was Payne and somebody on the other. It was not good.
No.
Showing the visible frustrations. There's not people are not on the same page on that team. I think Washington's cooked, so I'm also going with the Eagles on that one.
Certainly.
Next up, this is an interesting game. The 11-4 Rams travel to Baltimore to take on the 8-7 Ravens. 1:00 Fox. The Ravens
a very interesting game.
Are in deep doo-doo.
Yep. What is it, like 4 in a row? Maybe even more. I don't know. It's at least 4 in a row that they lost. And we've talked about they've been rocked by injuries since like preseason on. And I think I read this that they set a record for the amount of starters that maybe that was
they're up
the
to
Saints,
22, 23.
Yeah. Well, last week there were like I thought there was like at least 30 people, not all starters, but just 30 players out, not all COVID, but like combination of injuries and it's like, I mean, I don't care how much great coaching, and they do have great coaching staff, but soon you can't make up for all that. Come on, it's like you can't even. It's not your team. Your team's not on the field, and it's they're obviously in big trouble. They're on the sliding, and here come the Rams, who, after kind of like they had a couple losses in the middle, now they look like they're, they started beating up on the Jaguars, but now they continued that trend, finding their offensive powers again. And I know this is a type of game that Baltimore can pull out because it seems like they're never dead, but I'm still picking the Rams here.
Yeah, so Harbaugh's probably not, hindsight being what it is probably thinking maybe I shouldn't have gone for 2.
The 2-point conversions
in those 2 games I had on the road, because if I split those even, I'm in. But you're looking at 9-6.
Oh yeah, much better.
Their biggest problem now is their fate is sealed because they got swept by the Bengals. Not only swept by the Bengals, they gave up 41 points both times.
Both times, yep.
82 points against the Cincinnati Bengals. So they're screwed if it comes down to a tiebreaker. They're virtually out of this thing now, because I don't think there's a wild card team coming out of this division. I think you got to win the division to even get in there, because they're all it's a logjam. The Rams on the other side, holy moly! I am losing more confidence in Matt Stafford each week. And you saw it, like as soon as they hit that midway point, and it started with that 3-game losing streak, it was sprinkled in there. Yep. He's not looked good at all, and he's making like really bad first or second year quarterback type decisions, like deep in his own end, just flinging it up for grabs because he's going to get sacked, and like just stuff you should not do in your 10th, 11th year. Yeah. I'm not convinced. We'll see. I mean, we're going to have to let it play out.
Yeah.
But the way it looks to me is I'm not convinced this guy can win a championship. He's never been in a big game before.
Right.
He's never had to win a big game before. And it looks like each week when the pressure gets ratcheted up, he makes more and more mistakes. and he's back to Cooper Kupp. Like it's almost like if he doesn't throw 10 or 12 balls to Cooper Kupp, they're in big trouble.
Yep. Yep.
So and they lost the running back there. Sony Michel had a great game this week, by the way. So Cam Akers is going to have to come in. Henderson's gone. So they're getting Cam Akers back. But I think they got to keep running with Sony Michel. They've got to establish that running game. They got to keep that running game as part of their arsenal. Because if they're going to rely on Matt Stafford to throw them out of these things, I don't see it happening. That said, I think Baltimore's done. They're absolutely done. You're right. I mean, they patched this thing together as long as they could, and they did an admirable job.
They did.
They really did. But I think Harbaugh's gambling kind of cost them a little bit. But at what point? I mean, he knows much better than either one of us what's going on with that team, with their injuries in that locker room. He knows what's going on, and if he felt that desperate twice, he just felt like he tried to steal a couple that he probably didn't deserve to steal. So
yeah, it's very I mean, one time it's like you're kind of it was just one of those things, but twice that smells of desperation.
Yeah, it really did, and it just I think the sands in the hourglass have run out on this year's Baltimore Ravens. Tragically, I think they might end up 8-9 at this point. Who knows? But they're not winning this week. I got the Rams as well, so I'm not going to catch you this way. Next up.
There's a lot of kind of lopsided type. What we look as lopsided doesn't mean it's going to wind up that way.
No, not when you have games like the Saints shutting out Tampa Bay on the road and things like that. Detroit picking off Minnesota. Anyway, 1:00 Sunday on Fox again. Tampa Bay at 11-4 travel up here to New York to take on the 4-11 Jets.
Yes, this is one of those aforementioned, I believe, lopsided type games. And Tom Brady knows the Jets very well from his New England days. On top of that, I mean, there's just such a disparity of talent between these two teams, and starting the first right at the top, the quarterback position. And I can't see the Bucs losing here, especially they're still trying to get that number one. I think they're still able to get the number one.
They're only a game behind Green Bay. So
I don't think the Bucs are the type of team that kind of just relaxes because they see a kind of quote unquote easy team coming. There's no such thing, but I don't think they're gonna kind of relax about it. And the Jets, are the Jets. They show flashes of improvement at some point, but it's not very consistent at all. So Bucs all the way here.
There's nothing left to be said. I mean, you said it all. Tom Brady knows the Jets backward, forward, sideways.
Yeah.
The talent disparity on both sides of the ball. This one shouldn't be pretty at all. And you're right. And if there's one team or one guy I would think of in this league who would not be one of those, all we got to do is show up and we'll beat this lousy team.
Yeah.
It's Tom Brady.
No.
Tom Brady is laser focused all the time. He's not going to let down just because they're playing the Jets. So Tom Brady in Tampa Bay all the way on that one. Next up, 1:00 Fox. Oh, I'm sorry, CBS. Your 8-7 Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, this is an interesting game.
Head into Tennessee to take on the 10-5 Titans. How did they win last week?
They stole one.
Yes, they did.
It's like, how did they do that? They have the knack to do that. Yeah, I mean, Miami on a 7-game. I think that I heard this the other day. They were that's the first team, and people always love to throw these things out. First team in his NFL history that's had a 7-game losing streak and a 7-game winning streak all in 1 year
in the same season. I was going to say
the same
one.
Season.
You beat me to it.
Like, oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's a great.
I mean, it's kind of. It's like, yeah. I mean, I don't see that happening in my memory at all.
Take it this way: if they don't make the playoffs, at least you have that.
Yeah, and they, they reached over 500. That's a big deal as it is, and I understand. There's the critics are going to say they've kind of taken advantage of a weaker schedule, but I always get told you play who you have, so it's like you don't make up your own schedule. And of course, against the Saints, that was the Saints are just getting hit. They're just as bad off as Baltimore is in terms of injuries and especially COVID. That game on Monday night, like the Dolphin offense didn't do that much because the Saints defense is really good. And their offensive line is just, that's the only thing that's going to kind of kill the Dolphins here as they go up against better competition starting with this week, is that their offensive line. Tua's like quick drop and pass that he's kind of adopted has covered up a lot of weaknesses in the offensive line, and I saw that firsthand against the Saints. Wow, they were getting into that backfield like really really quick. He had to like get rid of the ball quick. And against the Titans, they also have a good defensive line, and their running game even without Derrick Henry is good. AJ Brown has all of a sudden become their best player. And who knows if they're going to keep staying their best player even after Henry comes back. He's been really good the last couple of weeks. So Titans at home, still trying to wrap up that division. I'll pick them.
Yeah, Miami has trouble on their offensive line and their running game. And the lack of running game hurts them as well. But I got to say, their defense is really good.
Yeah.
Miami's defense is really good. And, it's that stat, that 7-game losing streak and 7-game winning streak all in the same season. What's remarkable about that is it shows, again, that Brian Flores owns that locker room. Those guys buy into what he's selling, and they didn't quit on him, and that's amazing. I mean, here they are. They've got the 7th seed right now. They're in the playoffs. If the season ended today, the Dolphins are in.
Which is remarkable.
After starting the year 1-7, I mean, all these years in the past, and you could throw out the stats. You've heard them a million times. Oh, the teams that start 0-2, the odds of making the playoffs are 20%. That's teams that start 0-3, like never make the playoffs. And
right.
This team was 1-7 and currently sit in the playoffs. So throw those things away. I mean, every year is different, and we see new things. This year, we've seen a lot of new things. But I don't think they're going to make it. But they made a nice run. I
agree with you.
But they made a nice run. Tennessee, I can't figure them out. I was
the whole year I haven't been able to.
That without Derrick Henry, they would struggle and limp into the playoffs. By virtue of the fact that 2 of the teams in their division are lousy, and they only had the Colts to deal with, right? Somehow they've pulled. When they beat San Francisco last week, I was just like smashing my head against the wall. Like, that shouldn't happen. San Francisco is one of the hottest teams in the league right now, and I know they were on the road in Tennessee, but I mean, you're looking at the Titans, who have Tannehill's slightly above average to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Okay, he's not great. I mean, then again, Garoppolo, they're like the same guy. But, you look at the Julio Jones is hardly playing. The rest of aside from A.J. Brown, they really don't have anybody who scares you on the offensive side of the ball. And yet they go out there and put 20. I mean, it was only 20-17, but
right.
But it was a solid 20-17. I can't.
And they were down big, not big, but they couldn't do anything the first half.
First
2+ quarters.
They're just well coached. Mike Vrabel is.
Yeah,
I think agree. A bit underrated as a head coach, because since he took over, they've been pulling off crazy upsets of people, and they've been winning games you wouldn't suspect they could win, and he's found a way to get Ryan Tannehill over that. Like, Tannehill always showed that he had some talent when he's in Miami. And granted, he was with Adam Gase. They called that guy a quarterback whisperer. I called him a quarterback wrecker. Yeah. How he couldn't figure out how to use Tannehill, because Tannehill goes over to Tennessee. But, again, when you have a great running game, that helps sets up what he can do. But and Brown is a beast. He's an absolute beast. So I see the Miami defense and the Tennessee defense is kind of evenly matched.
Yep, they are.
I see the Tennessee offense is slightly more potent right now, and it's because they have balance. Even without Derrick Henry, they can run and they can throw when they have to. So I agree with you. Tennessee at home on this one. Maybe Miami can get to 9-8 and somehow find a way in, but it's going to take a win in the last week for them.
Yeah, I mean, I still see it as after that 1-7 start. I still see this as a good season either way, and you certainly would, if you're going to have those streaks, you certainly rather have it this way than start with a 7-game winning streak and then go on a 7-game losing streak. That's really bad.
Because this gives you something to build on for next
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
And it's, it's clear when you look at the Dolphins, it's clear where their deficiencies are. There aren't too many.
For sure. Yeah.
If they plug a few holes in that line and they get a solid, like a franchise running back, which I thought they should have taken Travis Etienne or Najee Harris last year. Because they needed a running back. I mean, they've needed one for years now.
I know.
So but it's pretty clear where the Dolphins are deficient, and it's not in a lot of places, so they could fix it pretty quickly, I think. Next up, 1:00, CBS. The Get Well game. The 2-13 Jags come up to New England to take on the New England Patriots at 9-6.
Yeah, this looks like another one of those kind of lopsided games at least on paper, and I think it will wind up that way. I mean, rookie quarterback, meet Bill Belichick. It's like, how many of those have already run into that?
Yep.
Where he knows exactly how to make them panic and run for their lives and just make mistakes. But basically, I think the Patriots offense can just sit back and do the same thing they did with the Bills, where they kind of just run the ball and just get 10, 13 points at this point, because I think their defense is really going to put the clamps on the Jaguars. I don't know, and Mac Jones. I mean, he's certainly in that system, and that team has made a lot more progress than Lawrence, but that's more because of the two systems that they're working. Yeah. So Patriots here.
Yeah. Crazy. 2 weeks ago, the Patriots were the number 1 seed at 9-4. They're on a 2-game losing streak now. They made that Buffalo game interesting, but you never felt like they were going to take the lead at any point.
It didn't look like it.
Every time they got close, they'd give it back, give up a score. I heard the stat the other day that blew my mind. Bill Belichick has coached 484 games as a head coach, and this was the first game that his defense never forced a punt.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that there were no punts. I couldn't believe it when I saw that. No punts? How could that be? But yeah, that's what happened.
That's bizarre. Yeah, that's wow. And they have a really good defense. It's not like they're
they have a great defense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their biggest strength.
But they just could not stop Josh Allen last week. A lot of those 4th down conversions and stuff. But I don't know if you saw this. There was the post-game press conference with Belichick. They sent some woman that came in from some entertainment magazine or something, some blog or whoever. She wasn't there to cover football. And she said, "Oh, you have any New Year's resolutions going into 2022?" And, I think Bill Belichick has mellowed a little bit in his old age, because Bill Belichick 10 years ago just eviscerates her, right?
Yeah.
He says, "Oh, not this week, maybe next week."
I give him a lot of credit for that. Just it's acted like it was just something kind of a typical thing. Move on. He didn't make a big deal out, didn't embarrass anybody. Just
Which, it's funny because remember rigid game face Bill Belichick from those, he would not have taken that the way he did. Maybe he's mellowed.
Yep.
I've heard for years that he has a great sense of humor. And I don't know if you've watched The Football Life with him.
Not yet, but I definitely have to watch it.
You got to watch that. Or the one with the 2 Bills, him and Parcells. They're great. And actually, was it last year or the year before they did the top 100 players? He was one of the panelists on that, and he was great on that, too.
Oh.
But the Football Life one in particular, you can see his sense of humor a little bit. There were 2 moments in that really stuck out to me, and real quick. One was he's doing the CBS, they meet on a Saturday with Greg Gumbel, and they're talking about, the game. And Belichick goes, "You know what really pisses me off, Greg?" And you see Gumbel go, "Uh-oh." He kind of recoils. He's like, "Oh, well, what?" And he goes, I'm such a technophobe that I can't figure out how to set the clock in my car, and it's just flashing 12. I can't fix it. Then they smash cut to that night. He's leaving the facility, and it's like 2 a.m. He gets in the car. The cameraman gets in the passenger seat, and Belichick looks at him and says, see, I wasn't lying. And the clock's flashing. And the other one is when Randy Moss goes into his office and invites him to this Halloween costume party. And he says, we know you don't like to do this thing, and we know you probably won't come, but the guys would appreciate it if, consider it. We'd love to have you come. Cut. There's Belichick with his wife. He's dressed as a pirate. He's on the roller skates. It was a roller skating party. He was on the skates. So, I used to not really like him. After watching that stuff, you see the human side of him, and you completely change your mind about him all the way, So, anyway, that's a long way of saying the Patriots are going to house the Jacksonville Jaguars this weekend. Because much like we've had in past weeks when a team is on a losing streak, somebody calling the Jags, let's fix this thing.
Yeah, that's I think the Rams, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always get well against the Jags. Next up, 1:00 on Fox, the 8-7 Vegas Raiders travel up to Indianapolis to take on the 9-6 Colts without Carson Wentz.
Is it definitely without Carson Wentz?
Well, as of today,
I read that. Yeah. I read that there's still a chance because they changed the protocols from last week to this week.
They're changing the protocols on the fly because they have so many guys. They're like, let's make it a day and a half. Let's make it 2 hours. They can come back.
Yeah. Yeah, they saw so much of their talent.
And these guys are all coming back and saying, I didn't even feel sick.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, with Wentz play, this game, I wasn't gonna make a difference to me. I think the Colts can win with or without Wentz. But it is kind of an interesting game because the Raiders, it looked like a few weeks ago they were going to do their regular midseason kind of swoon, and then they kind of it started off with that Cowboy game where they beat the Cowboys at home. That was on Thanksgiving, right?
Yes, it was.
Wow. Yeah, and since then they've been doing. I don't think they're on a big streak, but they've been competitive. They beat Cleveland Browns, and I'm trying to think what else they had, but they've been kind of not really beating any team kind of soundly, but just kind of being in the game until these kind of last minute wins, and this could turn into one of those as well. But Colts at home with that running game again, Jonathan Taylor, which I think should be a candidate for MVP at this point. I think the Colts will win even if Carson Wentz isn't playing.
Well, the Colts are starting a guy named Sam Ehlinger.
Yep, I saw that.
Here's the thing. Carson Wentz doesn't impress me anyway. And the guy 2 weeks ago completed 5 passes in the game. They've been carried by the running game. So this is a tough one though for me because you're right because I forgot to mention it is a tough one because now that I think about it, the Raiders do have a good defensive line. So yes, they do.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting because at some point, Ellinger's going to have to throw the ball.
Right.
He's going to have to get it out there to one of those playmakers, whether it's Hilton or Pittman or whoever it is. We say that, but Jonathan Taylor can carry the rock for 200. But I don't think the Raiders are going to get gashed like that. And I think, especially in the first half could be the tone setter here. Because if the Raiders' defense can be stout against the run, force the Colts to throw the ball, and they go 3 and out, and Derek Carr can hang a few scores on the Colts defense. Now what do we have, right? Because they're both dome teams, so it's not going to be kind of a, it's not going to be like being out on the natural playing surface is going to slow the Raiders down or anything like that. I'm torn on this one. I'm inclined to go with the Colts at home, but then I go, geez, this one has all the earmarks of the Raiders picking him off because we have a guy making who the hell's Sam Ehlinger? Who is that?
I heard there was actually a call made out to Phillip Rivers just to come to this game. I don't.
What
Not
the
sure if
Colts
that can
need to
be
do in the
confirmed.
offseason, the Colts need to back up the money truck to what's his name there? God, I just drew a blank. My favorite. I love the
Russell
guy.
Wilson? Are we
No,
talking about Russell? No.
the kid who
Okay.
retired, Andrew Luck.
Oh,
Andrew
oh,
Luck.
oh.
Get him back out. Get him back out there.
Man, I keep thinking about this team. If this team was like built this way with Andrew Luck, oh man.
Yeah. Oh man. But why not? He's sat out 2 years now. They have a great offensive line, a phenomenal running game, and
Finally,
wide
that's all
receivers
they
all
needed
over
was
the
an
place.
offensive line when he played.
Exactly. You know, the other thing that scares me about this game is if I go with Vegas, Carson Wentz will play, and Carson Wentz will play well enough to win the game at home, right? Because it's Wednesday, and we have all the way till Sunday.
Yeah, because we don't know. Yeah.
But here's the thing with Wentz, and this kills me too. He's not vaccinated.
Right.
But he doesn't seem to get the bad press that Aaron Rodgers does.
Right. Oh,
How come?
you're right.
How come?
That's weird.
They're just like, oh, well, he might be back, but he's unvaccinated. Aaron Rodgers is like, hang the guy by his, you know what.
Yep.
I got to go Vegas because I'm going to on the premise that Sam Ellinger's starting. And it makes them one-dimensional. They're going to load up to stop Jonathan Taylor. So I'm just going to go Vegas upset on the road.
Okay.
I'm not confident in that at all.
Oh, I'm not confident in the Colts either, but
feeling it. I don't know. 1:00 Sunday, CBS. The Kansas City Chiefs riding an 8-game winning streak at 11-4. Head up to Cincinnati at 9-6.
oh my gosh, when you said that, it's an 8-game winning streak.
8-game winning streak. They were 3-4.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
And they now got they have the number 1 seed. You know, not clinched, but definitely within their own. They have it all.
Their destinies
all
in
set.
their hands, as they like to say.
Yeah. Yep. And I know earlier in that win streak, it was a lot of defensive. Their defense was winning those games a lot. But now their offense has finally come back. It seems, at least it has for like the last 2 or 3 games. This is a good game because the Bengals are, you know, they seem to be the kind of like the class of that division. If any team is,
Yeah.
they definitely have the best. It seems at this point the best offense in that division, the North Division. I think this will be a good game, and I think it'll come down to the fact that we've talked about this before, how the Bengals still are not mature enough to be a success like consistently, and so I think the Chiefs will pull this out, but I think it'll be a very close game. But that experience in these type of games late in the year, for the Chiefs, I think will be the difference here.
My thinking exactly. I mean, you know, the Steelers are what the Steelers are, but watching what the Chiefs did to them, just completely dissecting them.
I wasn't going to go too much
And
into that.
That's without Travis Kelce. You know, you get a guy like Byron Pringle steps up out of nowhere. That guy's been like pedestrian for the most part, and then he has, you know, this amazing game. I mean, quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady have the ability to do that. They have the ability to take an average player when they need him and elevate them. You know, when someone's out of the lineup, and they can do that because they're just so good.
Yep.
You know, not only with their athletic ability, but I think with their leadership, they're able to get the most out of these average guys that on other teams would be really just third, fourth, fifth receivers. You know what I mean? Because I've never been impressed with Pringle or Hardman on that team. But they play with Patrick Mahomes. You're right. Cincinnati looks good. They are the class of the AFC North. They've definitely asserted themselves as that. They're going into the playoffs. I don't see how they can blow this, except lose out. But even if they lose out, I don't think Baltimore, Pittsburgh, or Cleveland's catching these guys. And when it comes down to tiebreakers, I mean, the beating they put on the Ravens last week pretty much cemented them as the division winner. I mean, it's not over yet, and I think you're right. I think the Chiefs know how to win. The Chiefs. Oh, there was another crazy stat. I think I texted it to you the other day. Are they something like 26 They've won 26 games in a row in November, December, and January for the last last 3 seasons or something like that.
That's unbelievable.
So make it 27 in a row because they're beating Cincinnati this weekend because they know what they're doing. They want that number 1 seed. They want that bye. They want to play in Arrowhead all the way to the Super Bowl. And Cincinnati has to. This is one of those years they just have to. They have to pay their dues, if you will, right? They're going to learn what it takes to get to that level. So Kansas City on the road there. Next up, the game you can't wait for, I can't wait for, the rest of the nation can't wait for. 1 o'clock on CBS. The 4-11 Giants take on the 5-10 Chicago Bears.
At this point or any point of the season, I kind of like fork the Bears and say, they're unwatchable or whatever. But they've actually become interesting the last couple of weeks. I know they're
think
not
they're
going to be
very
in the
watchable.
playoffs.
I said it last week. I like watching.
You did say that, and I agree with you now. I mean, they've kind of like been competitive the last, probably like 4 or 5 weeks, and with Fields in there, they've been like kind of like a more of a dynamic team than just that boring offense. Let's hope. I mean, this could be them being on the little bit of a rise going into next season, as long as they get kind of like a good coaching staff for him. And the Giants, well, I think that's this probably might be the end for maybe not this game, but in a couple of games when the season ends. I don't know if Judge is going to survive this kind of debacle of the season.
I didn't think so either, but they announced on Sunday that they're bringing back Judge and Jones and Daniel Jones.
All right. I mean, the Giants organization has always been one of those that kind of does take their time and doesn't just jump right off the bat. But I thought after this season, it would be kind of, haven't we seen enough of that? But okay. They do take their time, but giving people chances. But the Giants have not shown probably the last 6, 7, 8 weeks, much of life, especially on offense. And I know they probably haven't had all their starters in there for much of the season, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I think this kind of maybe they'll just look at this season as a complete wash and just start fresh, I guess. But Chicago here for sure.
Yeah. Chicago last week even looked good and I picked them to win that in Seattle.
Yeah, you did.
Nick Foles, Super Bowl hero Nick Foles played last week, and put up some points.
I was so happy that I made the pick of the Seahawks when I heard that. I was like, oh, they're not even gonna have their quarterback in there. It's like, and they still won the damn game. Damn it.
Well, the one thing you got about Nick Foles can only win when he's called in for relief.
Yeah.
When Nick Foles is given this flat-out starting job, he's not good. But when he comes in for a game here, a game there, a Super Bowl here, a Super Bowl there, he wins. It's just you got to just throw him in, I think, with very little prep and just let him freelance. Because it's weird how when he's counted on the spot start, he's okay. When you actually give him a job, awful. But there's good news, Edson, because both Justin Fields and Andy Dalton are coming back.
Yep.
Andy Dalton is coming back.
Let's hope Fields gets
one more time. Andy Dalton is coming back. No. And Allen Robinson's coming back off the COVID list too.
Oh, okay.
Little sad news, real quick. The Bears. I'm looking at their page here, real quick. The Bears beat reporter for ESPN, Jeff Dickerson, passed away. Tuesday, yesterday, colon cancer, only 44 years old. That's awful.
Oh, that is tragic.
Just awful. So go get your colonoscopies, kids, because you don't want that to happen to you.
At 44, you don't have to give somebody a chance because the standard is usually you wait till 50. Jeez.
I know. Yep, probably had it for years and didn't know it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's awful. Right at the holidays, too. That's just bad. So back to the game. Yes, I agree with you. I think the Giants are they're totally lost. I mean, they had Fromm in there last week. Then they had to bring in the neck again, and they're a mess. They're an absolute mess. And I was with you. I couldn't believe. I was watching the Steelers game, and my friend Doug's son said, "Oh, the Giants are bringing back Judge and Jones," and I said, "Okay." I didn't believe him. Nope, there it was. They're bringing him back, so
Oh,
that means
wow.
Kenny Pickett won't get taken by the Giants. So, so I'm with you. I think Chicago, Matt Nagy's done. He's on borrowed time, but I think Chicago, no matter who's the quarterback, is going to win this game because the Giants are just hapless without Daniel Jones. Awful. Next up, the 7-8 Falcons travel to Buffalo. Ouch.
Yeah,
to take on the 9-6
this looks
Bills.
like another one, a
1
lopsided
o'clock
game.
on Fox. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, what can you say? The Falcons gave it their best. They're still kind of like quote unquote in the hunt. they're one of those teams, and I'm going to throw my team into this. I'm going to throw the Dolphins into this batch too. They're one of those teams where it's like they're still going for a playoff spot, but
they're
these
out
teams,
of a playoff spot.
These teams do not.
Yeah.
What I'm saying that I hope they don't make it because they do not belong against the higher competition, and it just becomes one of those kind of disastrous playoff type games. It's like, and that's what you get with the NFL parity. There's a lot of like mediocre teams still going for the and once in a while one of those or two of those sneaks into the playoffs, and then they just kind of get buried. I think did Chicago do that? Did they make it last year when we were going to fork them and then they just got
I think
killed?
Yeah,
just got wiped out.
Yeah.
That was kind of one of those playoff games I didn't enjoy. I think it was against the Rams actually, but they kind of just lost it. So yeah, against Buffalo at home, Buffalo has definitely found their. And getting back to that Buffalo New England game, I think here's the difference at this point where you can't. A lot of these teams can't do this, but Buffalo with Josh Allen has at that point said, "Yeah, I can take this game on my shoulders," and did. He didn't. The New England defense, which is an excellent defense, did not have any answers for him. And we talked about when these two teams played, it's like the difference we thought was that the quarterback play was obviously better for both Buffalo, and that would make the difference. If he did come through, they would win, and that's what happened. And now at home against the Falcons, I don't even think Atlanta's probably going to even score maybe more than a field goal here.
Yeah, Atlanta's in trouble. They put 12 players on the COVID list today.
Oh, jeez.
Notably, Hayden Hurst, one of the bigger names on there, their tight end. So, whatever happened to Calvin Ridley too? Remember he went out like for personal reasons, like week 8 or 9, and never came back. That's kind of weird. I don't know what that's all about, but and it's the thing again. You have a dome team who plays in a warm climate, going up to Buffalo in the end of December. Well, actually, January. It'll be January on Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
That is a recipe for total disaster. And what you said about the Bills with Josh Allen is absolutely correct. But I think they have kind of a similar problem with what the Rams are not doing, what Miami can't do. If you can't run the ball, at all,
that's true.
You're not going to make it very far in the playoffs. I mean, you can't count on Josh Allen to do everything for this team.
It's true.
I mean, they don't even try to run very much. I mean, would Singletary have 26 yards again this week? You're not going to get by on that. This week, they'll get by on that. They're going to clobber the Falcons. But going forward in the playoffs, this is something, and they're not going to be able to fix it this year. This is something they're going to have to address in the offseason moving forward. Because I can't see the Bills. I mean, at the beginning of the year and early on, when they were killing people, I was like, the Bills are the elite. I've changed my mind on that. I don't think they're going to go very far. But
I mean, their running game is Josh Allen, which is a problem.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's almost like the Lamar Jackson thing.
Yeah.
They've got to fix that. So I don't think they can go beat the Chiefs in Kansas City.
Oh, I agree.
That way. We saw that last year. Yep. They're too one-dimensional. Next up, 4:05. We're into the late games. The 4-11 Texans travel to San Francisco to take on the 8-7 Enigma, the 49ers.
Yeah, Enigma is right. Losing that game. And Houston, I'm surprised. They've been kind of, at the beginning of the season, we're like, oh, they're such a mess. They're kind of like the worst team because of the whole Sean Watson situation, but they've actually been competitive for most of this season. They haven't really had that many bad losses, and they look what they did last week to the Chargers. I don't know how they beat the Chargers, but they've surprised a lot of people. But going into San Francisco, 49ers kind of lost a tough one. They got to stay focused for the playoffs if they can win the next couple of games, and they really need this game. So against Houston, who's completely out of it, I'll definitely go with the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers, we'll get into the Chargers.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of them either.
But they had absolutely no answer for Rex Burkhead. Houston, you're right. They're scrappy. They've got a bunch of like cast-offs, like Burkhead, like Danny Amendola.
Oh yeah,
But Davis Mills, he looks better and better every week, and there's no doubt that the players like David Cullers, the head coach, clearly, because they have not quit. They have not quit. Yeah. They go out there and they battle hard. Now they're going up to San Francisco, where they're in dire straits now. That loss last week to Tennessee really hurt them. I mean, you're 8-7. You've got 5 clinched teams already in the NFC. There's only 2 spots left.
Right.
2. And here's a team that we thought would be, one of the elite in the NFC. Garoppolo's got he's got a bone chip in his wrist or something like that.
Oh, jeez. I forgot.
So I think Trey Lance might have to play. He's your number 1 pick, right? You had the 3rd pick overall, and you took Trey Lance. Well, if he's got to start this week, let's see something. Because their season's on the line. If they lose this game, they're done.
I think so too.
So I think that Houston going on the road, playing up in the Bay Area, where it could be pouring rain, or who knows what's going to happen. It could be a sloppy field. I don't think they'll have enough to beat the 49ers at home. It's going to be an ugly game, I think.
Yeah.
But I think the 49ers will slog one out. So next up, 4:05 CBS. The 7-8 Denver Broncos travel to Los Angeles to take on the 8-7 Chargers. 4:05 CBS.
Speaking of enigmas, Chargers. I don't know what's going on.
Don't they look a lot like last year?
Yeah. All of a sudden, we for most of the season, we're like, oh, they're past what they used to do last year.
Did they bring Anthony Lynn back in? Or what's going on here?
I can't figure them out. I can't. One week they look like they're going to go deep into the playoffs and make a run for the Super Bowl, and then next week they kind of lay an egg against the team that's kind of subpar. With Houston, I don't get it. This is a division game. They obviously. Both teams need it for the playoffs, but it's we can't even say. I usually when I talk about a division game, the home team when they're kind of even, but it's not really. The Chargers don't really get a lot of home field advantage, but I do think they still have the upper hand in terms of the talent, especially at quarterback. I don't know. Is Bridgewater still playing this year? This week they. I know he was injured, but I think maybe Locke is playing.
Locke is expected to start. Teddy Bridgewater missed practice.
I thought.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think that'll be the difference here with the Chargers winning, but I'm not extremely confident because again, division games could go either way, and the Chargers are kind of, I don't know, if they don't win this game, I'm like, okay, you can forget about doing anything in the playoffs this year.
The Chargers have the last 2 weeks, that loss to the Chiefs where they got gashed by Travis Kelce in the fourth quarter in overtime. And then you're looking at this past week where Rex Burkhead ran all over them. They have a problem in the middle of the field. They can't tackle, for one. They can't tackle. Yeah. And they've got coverage. I don't know. They've got a lot of problems. They have a phenomenal pass rush, but there's something wrong in that second tier, that linebacker and safety. Up that middle there, they're in big trouble. I don't know what the hell's going on with them. That said, the quarterback is Herbert's definitely the difference here, but Herbert hasn't looked all that great. I mean, at the beginning of the year, I thought MVP maybe.
Yeah.
He's looked anything but. He's showing that sophomore jinx that everyone likes to talk about. He's getting in that sophomore slump thing. He made some dumb mistakes last week. He's capable of making dumb mistakes. And the Broncos have a solid defense. And you're right. Being a division game, the Broncos have the better defense here. And talent-wise on the offense, you're pretty close. I mean, Eckler's coming back for the Chargers, so that balances it out a little bit. So when it comes down to it, again, you're looking at Drew Lock versus Justin Herbert. I've got to go Justin Herbert. But the Broncos can run the ball.
Yeah.
With Javonte Williams and the ex-Charger there, what's his name? Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon,
and if they get that run game going, it could be a long day for the Chargers again. That said, I will take the Chargers at home.
I can't figure them out.
But you're right. This could easily go the other way. This division is so topsy-turvy. Next up, 425 Fox, the 5-10 Panthers travel to New Orleans to take on the 7-8 Aints.
Yeah, talk about two teams that are kind of just like
foundering.
I was going to say listless, but the same thing as foundering, I guess. I think that the whole Cam Newton experiment is over in Carolina. Actually, Sam Darnold's supposed to start this game.
Yes, he is.
And yeah, I saw reports that they're done with Cam Newton there. So that was kind of like one of those. I don't know, the whole quarterback situation with Carolina throughout the year has been kind of just weird.
Yeah,
it's almost like the offensive game plan is, stick whatever quarterback you want in there from play to play or week to week. I don't know, which is not a good way to run an offense, I don't think. And the Saints, I mean, I don't even know who's.
It's
I
Hill.
think
it's Hill.
Hill's definitely coming back, right?
Yeah.
I read that. Yep. Which is why I'm picking the Saints in this case. Not just because of Hill, but because they are getting some players back and they're at home. I don't think Sean Payton's gonna let them lose another game. I mean, technically they're kind of still they're not out of the playoffs, but with Carolina coming in to New Orleans, I don't think Sean Payton's gonna let them lose this game. Carolina is just, I don't know. Both offense and defense kind of just so inconsistent. I can't figure it out.
Yeah. Carolina, their quarterback moves, the one that seems to be costing them the most is the first one they made, which was letting go of Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have kept him around, and they wouldn't. I mean, I don't think they're a playoff team with Teddy Bridgewater, but maybe they're 7-8, 8-7, maybe. I mean, they did start this year 3-0. Sam Darnold. I know. Looked good. And then he became Jets Sam Darnold. You could see, like, the minute he started making a couple of mistakes, it was a snowball rolling down the hill, and it was just got worse for him, and it was over. So he's starting this week. Taysom Hill's coming back for the Saints, and I'm going to go with the Saints just for the same reason I went with the Saints last week against Miami. They are tough to beat in the dome. Look, they've got a quarterback problem too, and there's no doubt about it. But, if they had Winston, they might actually be a playoff team. Winston was playing very well. Who knows? But Taysom Hill is definitely not the answer. But Taysom Hill's dynamic enough, I think, and the Panthers are just... They're done. I think they're done.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing else you can do. And maybe Matt Rule doesn't survive this. And I like Matt Rule. I think he's a good coach.
I do too.
But this doesn't look good. I mean, they were 3-0. They're 5-10. That means they're 2-10 in their last 12 games. That's bad. That's bad. So yeah, Saints at home on that one. Next up.
And the Saints have a deep playoff caliber type defense. I mean, come on. They shut out Tom Brady. And it's just...
Yeah, I'm thinking what they're going to do to Sam Darnold at home in the dome, right?
Yeah, their defense has been single-handedly keeping them in these games when they're so short-handed on offense. So.
Yeah, but with Taysom Hill,
he can move it.
They'll design some gadget plays and they'll do some weird stuff with him, and he'll do the Tim Tebow thing and whatnot. So, don't be surprised if Newton comes in relief of Darnold when that washes out. So. Panthers are a mess. Next up, America's team, the Detroit Lions, 2-12-1, Travel to Seattle, 5-10, 4:25 on Fox.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, at this point, like, which team has more life? It's probably the Lions. I'm like loath to pick them in this type of thing because Seattle at home, I guess, they still have enough talent there to beat the Lions. But it's like if you're gonna like pick which team has more life to them, it would probably be the Lions because it's like what the heck is going on with Seattle? It's just how they lost that game last week, having such a big lead, and then just
And Foles hadn't started a game in what, a year and a half, almost 2
that
years.
defense is so far
Yeah.
from what they were, 3 or 4 years ago. I'm, I mean, Russell Wilson's still in there. I'm picking Seattle, but not with a lot of confidence. And the Lions still, they're like kind of like the NFC version of Houston. They're very competitive for what the talent that they have.
I agree. The Lions have, I think they've won over football fans in America everywhere.
Yeah,
I think everyone's rooting for Detroit every week to do something, and why not? I mean, yeah, we were banging on Dan Campbell for being the student that takes the job at the school, right, and stays the student and the whole bit, but he gets those guys fired up. They will run through walls for him, and he's a likable enough guy.
yeah,
I just thought, is he really head coach material? I
right.
kind of thought he's a little, I don't know, but you know what? I think he's proven me a little bit wrong here, and I think they're better than their record indicates. And they
Yeah.
lost. If you go back in time, if they could fix a couple of the mistakes early in the season, they're at least 5-10, like Seattle, if not 6-9.
Right.
I think they're on par with the Seahawks. Now
I
that
agree.
said, they've got to go up into the Pacific Northwest, outside. Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think I'm gonna have to lean Seahawks, but I'd love to see Detroit pick them up. Well, Detroit played a scrappy game last week in Atlanta.
They did. Yeah.
They're in every game. I think they got blown out one time this year. So
Yeah. Yep.
they're fun to watch, and I hope next year, I hope we can talk about the Lions in better light. I hope that they take that next step and they win 9 games, 8 games. It's been a long time.
Yeah, just even close to 500 or just one game below.
That's
That would
it.
be a great
It
improvement.
would be nice to see. It gets exhausting banging on these teams. Year after year at the top of the draft, it's like same helmets every year. Next up, 4:25 on Fox, the 10-5 reeling Cardinals travel to Big D to take on the 11-4 Dallas Cowboys. Oh.
Yeah, that might be a pretty big game for both teams.
Wow.
Look, I'm the kind of person that hates repetition in the NFL. So I've been kind of like biased rooting against kind of Tampa Bay because I don't want to see them win twice in a row. Just like I'm not picking on Tampa Bay. I'm just like don't want to see any team win twice in a row. So I've been hoping for most of the season. It's like, yeah, Arizona's going to be that team. Arizona's going to be that team because they were like no chinks in the armor until like 3 weeks ago, and now they've lost is it 2 or 3 in a row now? It might be 3
I think
in a row.
it's 3. Let me look real quick.
3 in a row. And it's like, what's going on? Kyler Murray making mistakes, mental mistakes.
Yeah, 3 in a row.
I don't see any kind of obvious injuries on their major players. I don't know. I don't know. But they're going into Dallas. Dallas is. I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon where I think their offense is fully made it back just because of one game. They certainly did play to their most effectiveness against the Washington football team for sure last week. I mean, it was interesting. I actually saw the beginning of that game when Dallas had the ball first, and they kind of got one first down and then just kind of did these weird plays where they got stopped. And I'm like, man, you guys are. I actually said these words, man, you guys are unwatchable to their offense. And I had to I got pulled away from the game, and I came back and was like, 21-0. What the heck happened? In 5 minutes that I was gone. And of course their defense is just like what, top 5 at least, I would think.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Dallas here just because of what you just said. Arizona reeling, and the Dallas defense has been consistent, kind of like all year long, actually.
Yeah. The Cardinals, the losing streak started with the Rams. Remember on that Monday night
Yep.
game, and that was a close game. They put
Yep.
23 points, but you're right. The last 2 losses, Detroit Lions, they put up 12 points, and then
Detroit, yeah.
Detroit, and then the Colts 16 points. Now Hopkins is gone for the year. He might play the playoffs, but he's gone for the regular season. Now they're going on the road. This could be a 4-game losing streak. This is and this is the time too. And this goes along with the Matt Stafford thing. This is a team that doesn't know how to win. The Cardinals are perennial losers, and I can't think of a single person on that team who's been in a big game. Maybe AJ Green, maybe James Conner, not really. D Hop, no, not really. I mean, the Texans made the playoffs when he was there, but they were one and done in the wild card round every year. Murray, no. Like, Chase Edmonds, no. Like, Zach Ertz won a Super Bowl. Like, that's about. There's not a lot of guys on this team that know how to win. And when you start losing like this, the mistakes start compounding themselves. So, and then you look at Dallas, like you said, that defense, holy crap. They're unbelievable. Their pass rush is savage. And I think in this league, with these running quarterbacks and stuff, the formula is to give them no time.
Yeah.
The formula is you can't let them, don't give them any time. Don't let them extend the plays. Just, you got to get after them. Dallas right now looks unbelievable. And they're 11-4. They're only 1 game behind the Packers. They still got a shot at that number 1 seed. I think they're gonna win this game, and I think they're gonna win it pretty impressively at home against Arizona. And the Cardinals, they did this last year.
Yeah, they did.
They did this last year. They're fading down the stretch. We'll see. I mean, prove us wrong, Arizona, but I don't think you have what it takes to go into Dallas.
Yeah, and some of that also may be coaching as well, because I saw this crazy stat the other day. I forgot to mention Kingsbury. Like in the first half, there's not a big sample size, but in the first half of the season, he's like 15-5, and in the last half of the seasons, he's like, I don't know, 7-18 or something like that. It's like a big disparity from, and it goes back to what you said. The big games come late in the season, as you're approaching the playoffs, and it's like the pressure keeps mounting. At the beginning of the season, you're kind of just like free and loose, and you do whatever you feel like, and they get off to these big starts. But you're right. Soon as a little pressure starts coming and they play big games, they kind of fold.
And it's not just the pressure; it's injuries mount up, and that's part of it.
Yeah,
but every team's
true.
got injuries, but there's more film on your team.
Yeah, that's true too.
The film gets around the league, like you might take a bunch of people by surprise weeks 1 through 8, but weeks 9 through 16, you're not sneaking up on people anymore.
Which is a good point. It could go back again to coaching if they want to stick to their their pattern and they don't want to make adjustments, and that's what happens if they don't.
Yeah, that's an interesting stat though, and it bears out because last year I think what were they 9-2 or something at one point, and then they collapsed. So. It looks like we're getting a rerun. Let's see if they've got it. Let's see if they can put their foot down and stop this losing streak, but I don't see it this week. Next up, the Sunday night game. Al and Chris will be calling the 7-8 Vikings traveling to Green Bay to take on the 12-3 Packers. 8:20 NBC.
Yeah, Minnesota was the last team to beat the Packers, I believe. So, again, they are capable of winning against the top teams, and they're capable of losing losing against the bottom teams. Minnesota's kind of crazy that way.
They are crazy.
They have a great running game, and if they can just stick to that and not, Cousins got to stop throwing those, interceptions, and they could win against anybody. But Packers at home. The only thing I worry about I have seen this kind of really not a good trend for the Packers. Remember earlier in the year, their defense was doing really well. even as their offense was kind of trying to catch up to them, it was more like their defense was keeping them kind of like close when their offense wasn't doing well. Well, they've given up quite a lot of points over the last 3 or 4 games, like an average of like 27, 30 points. See Baltimore with a backup quarterback, they gave up 30 points. I believe
they gave up 30 to the Bears.
30 to the Bears. So I'm a little worried about that because if Minnesota gets hot, they could do that too. But Packers at home, I'm still going to give Aaron Rodgers the edge because he's not going to make as many mistakes as Cousins.
Yeah. Dalvin Cook's coming back, which is big for Minnesota. But Dalvin Cook on turf and Dalvin Cook out on the frozen tundra are 2 different things. Looking at the injury report, it looks pretty clean for both teams. So, you're going strength on strength here. I still think Green Bay has the advantage. I think Green Bay has proven out, and you're right, the last couple of weeks, they're looking kind of, they squeaked one out by 2 points last week against the Browns. I just think this is the time of year that Green Bay puts they step on the necks. They're going to get this to 13-3 with 1 game to go. They want that number 1 seed. They want people to have to go through Lambeau Field. I've got the Super Bowl vibe from the Packers, and I've had it for about the last 6 weeks or so. It just feels like this is it. And it could, especially because it seems like it's Aaron Rodgers' swan song, and it's almost like he wants to go out, win the thing, and then just go, I'm out, right?
Yep.
Which we've seen before with Jerome Bettis and Peyton Manning, and if he's going to play on a different team next year, he just wants to, let them remember the good times when he walks out the door, right? So I got that feeling too. I think it's going to be a really physical game. It's going to be a fun game to watch because they always are, these Vikings-Packers games.
These 2 teams, Yep.
I hope we get some bad weather to really make it interesting. But I think in the end, I don't see the Packers coughing one up this late in the year at home, no matter who comes in. I just think they've got their eye on the prize right now. So
I do think that the troubling trend with the defense might hurt them in the playoffs. Obviously not here, but in the playoffs, I think when they're up against the bigger offenses, if they keep playing like that, that might hurt them. But
which is weird because their defense looked really good for the longest time, and then all of a sudden,
I know,
poof.
Right
yeah, you're right. I'm going back, looking at like week 9, week 10, they're giving up 7, then they shut out, and then all of a sudden 30, 28, 30, 30. Yeah, so yeah, it's a crazy year. And last up of this and this crazy
Monday night,
the last Monday nighter of the year, ESPN 8:15. The 7-8 Brownies travel to Pittsburgh to take on the 7-1 Steelers.
What are we gonna do with this AFC North? Wow.
The division nobody wants to win.
This seems like kind of like that same type of setup as last year, where Cleveland came in and kind of like ended the Steelers season. But Cleveland's in a different state this year than they were last year. They kind of like been injury riddled. I think if they stay to their strengths, like that's Chubb their running game, and keep like the all of a sudden Mayfield interception happy, kind of like to a minimum. Just stick to your run game. I think they'll win this game, especially since we've seen that in the last few. I don't know if it was all year, but definitely in the last 4 or 5 weeks, how teams playing the Steelers have really gashed them for down the middle for with a run game. Like even Kansas City had good success when their run game, and they're not well known for their running game. Dalvin Cook before that. If they can stick to that, I think Cleveland will. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy win. These type of games always seem to go down to the wire, but I think they'll have a nice solid win here. And I always thought that these 2 teams would kind of split, and I know Pittsburgh won the last game, so I'm going to go with Cleveland. But they could easily just as well lose it as well if they can't take care of, if Mayfield continues to put the ball on the ground and put it into other, with uh, Minka Fitzpatrick. I could see his eyes like widening up, trying to picking up a pass or two.
Yeah, this is a tough one to call, and I did the thing where I picked one and then scribbled it out and changed it. And I think you hit the nail on the head with Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt. They have a 1-2 punch that Pittsburgh has no defense for. Zero defense for. And the Steelers can't stop the run, and Cleveland knows it. And I think Cleveland can just run the ball all over them. You saw the Chiefs come out last week and run an 8-minute drive, right? The Cleveland can do that all day long with these running backs. Every time they touch the ball, they can go on 6, 7, 8-minute drives because the Steelers are not going to get them off the field because they can't stop the run. They're really, really weak in the center of the field. And I think that's going to be the difference. I think this is going to be a bore fest. I think Mayfield will keep it clean. I think he knows how to play the Steelers. I mean, look what he did last year to him.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I don't see the Steelers pulling this one out, even though they're home, and it's going to be probably Ben Roethlisberger's last home game.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I think he's going to go out flinging the ball around, but I see them getting down again. I mean, the Steelers, have you seen this stat? They've been outscored 97-9 in the last 5 games in the first half. It's the lowest offensive output since 1940 for this team. And if you know the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were awful until the early 70s. They were terrible. So if you're looking at records that are paralleling teams that were, 1-15, or back then 1-13 because they played 14 or 12 games, they're bad. They're bad. They're just not a good team at all in just about every facet of the game. I mean, and they're so undisciplined. I mean, last week, how many times did these guys flag for like taunting and celebrating when they're down by 30 points?
Yeah, that was bad.
They're just not. They're a mess. So I think you're right. I think same with you. I thought they'd split with Cleveland. I thought it would be the other way around. They'd each win their home games. But I think the Browns are desperate. Not that the Steelers aren't too, but I think the Browns are more desperate. And I just think the Browns are more talented. If all things being equal, on paper, I think the Browns are more talented than the Steelers are. So I'm going to stick with them. I'm going to go with the Browns as well for the upset, if you want to call it that, on Monday night. Although I think the Steelers are a 2-point underdog at home.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's that.
And if you saw that game last week, Cleveland could have won that game against the Packers if Mayfield hadn't. What do you throw? 4 interceptions. It's like, why they didn't stick to the? And that's what I'm worried about. That you guys need to be reminded to stick to your running game, and you'll be okay here.
But I think the difference there is they know how to play the Steelers.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be in that kind of panicky desperation mode. I think they're going to be. They know they can run on the Steelers. They're going to just run, and then Mayfield will make the strategic throws that, like he did. He beat them in the last game of the last game of the year, and then killed them in the wild card. I mean, it was 28-0 in the first quarter of that wild card game. The Browns are not intimidated by the Steelers. That's for sure. So that's the picks for the week. We have one different. So
all right.
I better get that one to cut it to 4 with 1 week to go, and then I'm gonna have to pick everything against you next week. Just throw caution to the wind and just.
We should probably just have one of those weeks. It's like just watch it'll come out like 8-7 or something like that.
Right. Exactly. So before we sign off, just want to say you can find us on the Rumble. You can find us on the socials over there at the geektimenet. That's the Twitter, the Facebook, the Insta. We check them now and then, sort of.
Yeah.
And then one last thing. I wanted to save this for last. I'll just put up the graphic real quick. We lost a legend this week. Yesterday, John Madden. passed away at age 85. And real quick, I just wanted to get your thoughts on John Madden. I'll give my thoughts on John Madden before we head on out of here. So,
I hadn't heard that in my mind. When I think of John Madden, I hadn't ever considered him as a coach. I know he was, obviously, and he was a very what was he, like 32 when he became a coach?
Yeah.
And instant success with that organization. I don't. Did he ever have a losing season?
Nope.
No. And these are I'm asking questions because when I think of John Madden, I don't think about his coaching, which was excellent, and he knew how to, obviously scheme an offense, and he knew how to, have the players play for him, and complete success. But what I remember him is like those classic NFC game, especially when San Francisco and Dallas always used to go to the championship game. All those seasons of him with Pat Summerall, there was such a great, they played on each other. How Pat Summerall always had that calm demeanor, just gave you the play, and then he would add also it wasn't like some of these announcers we have today where they're just kind of making these weird cheering sounds or just holy cow or anything. Everything, every word out of his mouth was something valuable. He could scheme exactly what happened, and I really appreciated it. The fact that I learned a lot from just listening to him do. I learned a lot about football just listening to him doing announcing those games. What is he considered, the color guy? I forgot the
color
name of
color commentator. Yeah.
Where Pat Summerall just kind of gave you the play, and then he would kind of add on exactly how it broke down and everything. And I love that. I know since then, certain comedians have made kind of a living off doing his explanation. It was and then and boom. It's the way he did that, all very animated. You could tell he loved the game, and I think I learned more about the game from him than anyone else, even though I never met him.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the coaching, I heard that he won basically 3 out of every 4 games for his career, which is remarkable. Only got the 1 Super Bowl, but, there are lots of other factors that contribute to those kind of things.
Oh, yeah, of course.
To win that much, and he only coached for about 10 years.
Yeah, it was 10. I was surprised that he only went for 10 years. Yeah.
Yep. But you're right. I mean, but here's what I think when I think John Madden, video game aside. But
oh, right.
the meteoric rise of this league. I've been watching the NFL since I was a little boy in the 70s, up through current time, and you've watched it decade by decade. Just when I was a kid, baseball was the national pastime, right? And football was that fall, winter sport that was okay, but, diehard football fans like to watch football on TV, but most of America didn't. And it slowly, and Monday Night Football was a big factor in this, but I think where it caught fire, you saw it happen in the 80s, the 90s, right up into the 2000s, and the meteoric rise of this league was due in no small part to this man's contributions to what he brought. He brought the telestrator. He
oh yeah, yep.
He innovated the color commentator position, and he did it by being folksy, like you said. He didn't talk down to the viewer. He didn't try to impress you, clearly encyclopedic football brain, but he was just a jovial, rah-rah fan. He was a fan watching a football game who had insight into why the play broke down or why the play was a success. And you knew he was a fan of players. I mean, he would gush over players like Troy Aikman or Brett Favre. There was something about, like you said, when you heard Pat Summerall with that straight delivery, Emmitt Smith for 10 yards, and then John Madden comes in, whoa, here's what happened here, just all excited because he just loved watching football.
Loved it,
and sharing like what he saw with America. And then you saw him develop it through the Thanksgiving Day game with the turducken, you know, and then he'd be giving the guys the turkey legs at the end of the
There's
game.
like 6 turkey legs.
Yeah, give him the turkey legs. And it just, to me, thinking of Madden and Summerall through all the years I was growing up, and I think of snow and hot chocolate and the fire going in the fireplace and watching them on TV. And it's sad. It just, hearing something like that happen, or you're hearing him pass away, it's a reminder of how old we're getting.
Yeah. Yep.
And how much has changed. And you know, it's funny because John Madden was afraid to fly, and he drove a bus all over the place. He would only take his Madden Cruiser to every game. So that dude was logging some serious miles on the highway.
Yep.
And yeah, and then he took that and brought it to the video game. The Madden video game became a huge hit. I mean, that went back to the late 80s, early 90s. It's an annual tradition. Who's going to be on the cover of the Madden game? So when I heard this news last night, the first thing out of my friend Colin's mouth was, "Oh, he got hit by the Madden curse." Thanks, Colin.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but John Madden was truly an innovator, truly a legend, and he seemed like an all-around, like, a phenomenal person. Just seemed like he'd be the best guy to hang out with, you know?
Yeah, he was very down to earth. Like, even as he broke down all these, you could tell he knew everything about it, but he didn't do it like some of these guys today try to impress you with like the Z right, left, and they give you like all these like technical terms that you obviously know 80% of the people are not going to know. But he never did that. He kind of broke it down and then like as if he was hanging out with you, like you said.
Yeah, he would say,
and watching a game.
He'd say, "See this guy here with the big butt? He moved him right out of the way so he could." Yeah,
exactly. So you made you feel like you were just hanging out with him, like you said.
How many times would he like circle Nate Newton's belly and say, "Oh, look at all the candy bars he's been eating"? You know, he would just do stuff like that, you know, and it was just.
And I actually thank you for bringing it up, because he would be a person that would also appreciate the alignment, like the line. He knew that the offensive line and defensive line made all the difference in the world in terms of what happened with the kind of skill players. Like he always brought that up. Which a lot of people don't. You know, you have all these highlights about the receivers making great catches and the great runs and the quarterback, but he always appreciated the guys in the trenches that made everything work.
And it's funny you say that, because growing up, you know, you're dazzled by the skilled players, and I didn't care. I didn't know any of the offensive linemen's names ever. You know, sometimes the defensive line, because they'd sack the quarterback.
Yeah,
but. You're right, because John Madden, how many times would he say, "The game's won in the trenches. The game's won in the trenches. These are the guys right here." Boom. And made me appreciate all 11 guys on the field.
Yep.
And I mean, it's when he retired. God, it was about a decade ago now. It just wasn't the same. It's like Vin Scully with baseball.
Right.
It's like Doc Emmerich with hockey. There are these iconic voices that when they leave the game can never be replaced. And John Madden was one of them. And and it's sad, because they were preparing that documentary for him. And I guess they rushed it on air like yesterday. And you know, if you get a chance, I haven't seen it yet. I want to watch it.
I want to watch it.
I think it's going to be phenomenal. But boy, what an amazing career, and just a true innovator. And everything that we watch today was because of him. He definitely changed the game. So that's it for me. Rest in peace, Coach.
Yep.
If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up below. Also, please subscribe to GeekTime TV. It really helps us grow the channel. And make sure you hit that bell icon in order to receive notifications every time we drop new content here. You can also check us out on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at GeekTimeNet. Thanks again for watching. We will see you soon.
It's what time is it?